Hey, welcome back. Today we're talking about how to multiply your deals using regular webinars. So this is video number 6 in our 6-step process of the webinar scaler system. And this is all about how you can raise massive amounts of capital very, very quickly using online group presentations, aka webinars. And today we're talking about the 6th step, which is repeat. How often do we want to do these webinars? So I'm going to show you exactly what the perfect cadence is so that you don't get burnt out, your investor list doesn't get burnt out, and you get the maximum results. All right, let's take a look at what kind of frequency should you have when it comes to doing these webinars. Here's a shortcut. Quarterly. Think quarterly. What does that mean? Every 3 to 4 months, you are going to do one of these webinars. But Dave, isn't everybody going to get bored if I'm doing the same webinar over and over and over again? No, you could actually do the same webinar every quarter and your list would not get burnt out. Now, I do recommend that you change it up every once in a while, but let me explain. So here are the statistical numbers that we've seen over the years when it comes to doing webinars. Let's say, for example, you've got a target group of 200 prospective investors, not actual investors, prospective investors, right? 200 people. And you promote your webinar to those 200 people. Out of those 200 people, maybe 10% or 20 people will put up their hand and say, yeah, you know what, Dave, I want to attend your webinar. So if you start off with 200 people, we get 20 people who say yes to the webinar. Then we do our 3x3x3 process. We remind them 3 times. And even though we reminded them 3 times, when we actually do the webinar, chances are you're only going to get about half of those people, 10 people, showing up to the webinar live. Well, Dave, is it even worthwhile to do the webinar if only 10 people show up? Yes, it is. That's massive leverage. That's 10x what you'd be doing on a one-on-one presentation. So yes, do them with 10 people. It makes a ton of sense. So you get 10 people on the actual webinar, you do the replay, all that kind of good stuff. Bottom line is, how many people on your list have seen that presentation live? Answer, 10. How many have not? Answer, 190. All right, so even if you did the exact same webinar 3 months down the road, chances are the numbers would be fairly similar. You promote it to all 200 people, including the people that registered for the last one. You get about 20 people signing up for the webinar and about 10 people actually attending. And here's the interesting thing. About half the people that sign up and attend will be repeats from the first time you did it. And that's perfectly fine. The repetition is a good thing. These people are really keen. They want to see it a second time. Fantastic. So that means that when the smoke clears, by the time you finish your second webinar, you're actually only 5 people up on the total number of people that have seen that presentation. You're up to 15 unique individuals have seen your webinar, one of your 2 webinars, right? So you've still got 185 who haven't, right? That's how you're able to do this on a regular basis. And if you swap up the topics a little bit, then you definitely won't have to worry about list burnout. Now, speaking of swapping out topics, let's talk about that next. So I do recommend, even though you could do the exact same webinar over and over and over again, and it wouldn't burn out your list, it still is a good idea to swap things out, at least swap out the titles and the grabbers for your webinars from time to time. So even if you had 3 different presentations kind of built out, that would be all that you would need. You could just rotate through that throughout the year. So every 3 or 4 months, you just do a different version of your webinar. So your first one could be how the money is made. Second one could be the X number of step process to doing your specific type of real estate investing. The third one could be why real estate versus everything else, or could be how to be the bank, right? So you could show people how they can come up with the money for being an investor with one of your deals. So you've got different angles on the same idea, always keeping it focused on what's in it for them. So it's very important that you are regular with your webinars. This is really what helps to build up that momentum. I see so many people get off to a good start with webinars, then they raise a bunch of capital, they go off, they get busy, they're doing deals, they're looking for deals, and they forget to do more webinars, and then they're scrambling when they've got their next deal on the go instead of getting their investors lined up ahead of time. So this is the trick. Kind of like we're supposed to do with the dentist. Just schedule it in, Put it in your calendar ahead of time, and then you know it's going to happen. So that's what I recommend. You don't have to wait to the beginning of the year. Start right now. Schedule in your first webinar for, let's say, 2 or 3 weeks from now, and then plunk in the next one in the next 3 or 4 months. And then 3 or 4 months from then, plunk in your calendar the next one. If you're working with Google Calendar, just put it right in there. If you have Calendly, you can put it right in there, right? Create a Calendly event. And then that way, you know what's going to happen. Set yourself up with reminders so that you know what you're supposed to do and when you're supposed to do it, when you're supposed to create the promotions, when you're supposed to send out the promotions, the reminders, the replays, all that kind of good stuff. Schedule it out ahead of time, and then it will happen. All right, well, there you have it. That's the entire Scalar webinar system for raising massive amounts of private capital quickly, easily, and efficiently, leveraging your time, leveraging your efforts, going from one-on-one presentations to one-to-many presentations, setting up as a system and doing it consistently. Again, this is called the webinar Scalar process for raising capital. If you'd like to get the PDF infographic of this, find out all about that in the description below. If you'd like my entire money partner formula, go ahead, grab a free copy of my book at investorattractionbook.com or click on the link in the description below. Take care.